So I want to talk about, when we struggle with someone's death. And, I think grief is kind of, it can change. You can think you're doing fine, and then you aren't. And how do you get the support that you need to get through it? And sometimes there is no support. And yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like things are real chopped up. People chopped away from each other. It has to come back around to something healthier. And I mean, some of us, have lived through enough or living through enough and have seen we've seen enough. We've experienced a lot of deaths of people our age, and a death of a parent or another older person also is not a good thing. But I think some of us know we're potentially at risk. I mean, if there were a list of risk factors, we might be able to, check some off. And, even when we're taking good care of our health, things like that. So I'm going to talk about, you know, uh, from personal experience again, I'm going to talk about two men who died. And, yeah, so, and how do you manage the grief, and how do you get people to start to really pay attention, because I guess what I think is that some people won't ever. So how do you protect yourself from that? And if there are people to protect from that, how do you protect people from that? Sometimes there's social obstacles. But yeah, so I will talk about first the first man who died first. Who was someone I Well, I'll say it again. I dreamed about him when he died, and I dreamed about him when his funeral was held. And when I go through my dream journal, there aren't dreams other days. It's when he died and when his funeral was held. And those details in those dreams, I pay attention to those things. I could talk real briefly about doing intuitive readings for 6 years and stopping a few months ago. It's been several months, because I pick up on drugs and it has an impact on my body. I think possibly on my physical health. Physical empathy, it can be real uncomfortable. How much impact does that have on our physical health? There's a question. And why are some of us that sensitive? Well, I don't know. Does anyone need to answer that question? I think part of the question should be, how do we get people back to normal? Because there's so much that isn't normal and is not healthy. And, maybe there's spillage and some of us just pick up on it more than we would otherwise. So yeah, so the first man who died, what can I say? I've said plenty before, well, when he died, before I knew he died, I could feel something had died. It felt like a dream had died. It felt like possibility had died. And yeah, so dreamed about him when he died, dreamed about him when his funeral was held. Before I saw his obituary, I could feel something had died. And and I had communicated to someone. I worry about him, so I had concerns about his health. Really wanted to move up near him, but there was no way to do that. Just to be in close enough proximity to see someone. And you don't even have to ask a person sometimes, how are you doing? Just being in the presence, people being in the presence of each other, when that is a healthy thing. It's good for people, it's good for your physical health. So, I could talk about nuclear infrastructure again, and all these wars that are being made, including on us on. I mean, I don't think people are gonna see it if they don't want to see it, But so I had concerns, communicated concerns. Maybe at that point, no one could do anything. I think it's probably true though that his death could have been prevented. So, what would have prevented his death? There's a question. I can tell you what contributed to his death, and it was tech, and I know that. The reduction in quality communication. I mean, depletion. How about that? The depletion in so much. So much. So yeah. So the second man I'm going to talk about, someone I went to high school with. He was a year above me in school. We were both quiet. I had not seen him since we were teenagers. And he came into my mind strong one day. I started dreaming about him, and I knew I should be concerned about him. I communicated concern to someone that he knew and that I know, and I was prevented from being in contact with him. Had he and I been communicating all these years, writing back and forth or anything else? No, I hadn't. We hadn't seen each other since high school. Does the fact that we hadn't been communicating and things like that mean that it didn't mean anything, that he came into my mind strong and I started dreaming about him and had concerns? Well, I did intuitive readings for 6 years. I mean, I don't believe in that. All right, don't believe in it. If you get a bad gut feeling about walking out into the street, ignore that bad gut feeling and see what happens. So, it's challenging because, socially, can I talk about it much? No. Could people think I'm crazy? Do I fucking care? Does it have an impact when people have, attitudes about you and things like that? Yes, it does. It does. And what do you do to protect yourself from attitudes like that? I guess you can just sort of ramp up the attitude. So yeah, do I think his death could have been prevented? I do. And how long before he died did he come to mind like that? And I started dreaming about him over 3.5 years. When I looked for email, and it was like 3 years and 7 months. So what all happened during that time? Well, I don't know, because he and I were not communicating. Even though I had communicated concern to someone, and there was a social barrier. So, his daughter might be doing fine. And she might always do fine. Sometimes we contain grief. I'm not saying what she's doing because I don't know. I know she has to be strong because her father has died. And again, I think it could have been prevented. No matter what was his cause of death, I do think it could have been prevented. These things that are going on with tech, with social isolation, with poor communication, are killing people. So yeah, how do you manage grief? I mean, I thought a while ago, something came to mind about something that I saw this week where I think culture of grief was used, the phrase, and I think that is real heavy. You might see those words, culture of grief, and we might read words kind of fast, but culture of grief, that is extremely heavy. How do you survive in a culture of grief? How do you survive when you have lost people over years? And when you know someone could be at risk, and you know you are being ignored, and you've done everything you can possibly do, then what do you do? All right, that person thinks I'm crazy, doesn't believe in it. Okay, that's fine. What can I say? I'm a crazy ass bitch. Do I want to say that? I have been put through a whole lot. And I think I have enough ghetto roots to keep on going. And I don't know. When you have ghetto roots, what does that mean? Sometimes it means you have no support at all. Why didn't I put it that way? You might have friends at a distance, people you're like minded with, but in your day to day life, you might be working at some job that is way more than 40 hours a week. You might be doing things that are degrading to your body, degrading to everything, your spirit. Can I say that? Yeah, well, I just wanted to talk about grief. I wanted to talk about when you lose people. And with both of those men, I communicated concern. I communicated concern. And I know their deaths could have been prevented. So yeah, again, grief, sometimes we're doing okay, other times we're really not. And we have to remember when we're really not. All right, I'm feeling what I'm feeling. I'm feeling what I'm feeling. And yeah, well, just a few words. I mean, I do hope it helps someone.